Welcome to Jeep Peep. Today's project, pulling the brakes off of this rear axle as well as the front so that we can get these things sandblasted, prepped, cleaned, painted, and back on that chassis. Now, quick measurement of the amount of material that we've got on these shoes. These brakes still got a lot of life in them, so we're gonna try to pull all this off and salvage them, put this back on, get the rest of the life out.
All right, rear brake cylinders definitely need replaced. One of them's leaking pretty badly, so we're gonna get some of these guys on order. But we have got this axle to a point where I think we can sandblast it, get stuff cleaned up. We don't have any real leaks in this guy. And then here, really interesting design. The rotors mount behind this rear hub. So you got to pull all of this mechanism off to replace this disc. And that's going to be that's next step. All right, Warren locking hub. We've pulled all of the bolts out and this is what we got. So it's actually kind of a screw style where it pushes this collar out into that spline shaft to engage it to the axle. Pretty cool. All right, Warren locking hub off. And another fun surprise is somebody over the lifetime of this axle, and this is a Dana 30, has used a chisel to hook on to the corners of these nuts and try to tighten it in a really crude way, which can make it hard to get a socket on there and do it in a proper way. Definitely glad we're digging into this axle, because what I found is after pulling the retaining off, that is an absolutely loose nut. There is nothing, no pressure at all on those wheel bearings. So good thing we're pulling this guy apart so we can put it back together proper. Curious what these bearings look like when we get this all apart. Backing nuts off. That is bearing coming out with retainer. Let's pull all this out together. And there we go. Nothing obvious on that shaft of concern. A couple different colored grease, so somebody at some point has put some different bearings in this guy. Let's have a look. All right, hub's off. There's wheel bearing number 1. Down in here in the race. Feel anything of concern. I have to get that cleaned up and get a light down in there and see what we got. Definitely loose coming off the hub, scary loose coming off the hub. There's the stack. And finally, if we can get to the disc, pull that guy off. We've got some new ones coming. And we can pull that apart and get a nice, good sandblast on all those major components, inside and out. Next step, we're gonna pull this dust shield off and likely this spindle and pull this axle out so that we can sandblast and not contaminate anything that's sensitive. With the hub off, that's dust shield off. And we should be able to get these rear brake. Yep. Looks like that's gonna come off with this as well. So there is your brake caliper. And then we're at a spot. I believe that guy may come off as well. Let me tap on that real light. All right, a few gentle taps, and definitely this hub is now gonna come off. And of course, there are some shims in here, which we've got to keep track of, putting that kind of back tension on the axle itself. So as we set this guy down, make sure we preserve that bearing there. All right, with all that mechanism removed, we can now pull out this center shaft. Set this guy aside, make sure we label it as our left-hand side, but making progress. This guy to plug it up, make sure we don't get any sand in there, of course, but pretty soon here we're gonna be ready for paint. Left side, done. Moving on to the right. All right, that's a wrap on the axle tear down. So we've got both front and rear axles pulled as far apart as I think we're gonna take them. I'll look at the bearings early. We're looking pretty good on the outside. Do not believe I'm gonna pull all the pumpkins apart. There's no noise, backlash feels good. But we do have them pulled down to a point where we can make sure we plug any sensitive items where sand may get in. And then we are gonna do a wire brush and sandblast of these guys so that we can start to put them back together with new brakes.